Hello, hello, hello. Happy Sunday, everyone. Hope everyone had a great weekend. It is the day after my birthday. And I just had a really good time yesterday. And thanks for all the birthday wishes, anybody who reached out. I really, really appreciate you for thinking of me on my day. You did not have to take out the seconds, the minutes, whatever you did to reach out. And I am truly grateful. Yesterday was also the 1 year of my podcast. So if you have not listened to my podcast, Leadership Beyond the Title, please go listen to it. I did a special 1 year episode and talked about some of the lessons that I've learned over this past year, as well as just celebrating and being grateful. So go download, like, subscribe, share. I would appreciate that so much. That could be your birthday gift to moi. Um, Other than that, I was supposed to go live on this specific topic last Friday, and my son called me while he was right at his game and said he forgot his cleats. So I had to cancel. I had to change this. So thank y'all for bearing with me, showing me grace, and still showing up to this live today. So let's dive in. First, I want to introduce myself for those that don't know me. I'm Tashina. I'm an executive leadership and team coach, and I help teams and the leaders who lead them collaborate better, heal from conflict, and build systems that actually work without the drama. Okay. So let's get into something that I think every team needs to learn, and that is repair. Okay. So, um, repair comes after some type of conflict, some form of tension that happened. And we it's like the makeup moment. It's a time for us to make up. I'm sorry, I was a little distracted just now because I was making sure that this was going on my Instagram, but it's going now. But anyway, so conflict isn't necessarily like the major problem whenever things happen in the workplace or happen in between relationships or partnerships. It's not really the conflict that's the problem. It's the problem. What the real problem is what happens after the conflict happens. And most teams I know don't fall apart necessarily because of the conflict, but because they don't know how to repair after it. And so things get left unsaid, things get swept under the rug, and we just think we can move forward, but there's a lot of resentment and animosity building up. And so we have to learn as organizations, as leaders, as teammates, how to have repair in any type of relationship, because repair is about trust. It's about having the level of trust that you want to have in your organization to be a better team, to be a better employee, to be a better teammate, and even outside of the workplace, like to be a better partner, to be a better friend, to be a better parent. Whatever it is, repair is all about trust. And we want to build trust with anybody that we come into contact. And not only is the foundation or the what is it in service of, which is trust, but it's also about owning your impact, being an adult and say, I own my impact. This is what I did. It's also about rebuilding safety. When we talk about psychological safety, repair is a part of safety. And then showing people you actually mean what you say about culture. We talk about our cultures in this like theoretical kind of like in space, like we can't really pinpoint where the culture starts and where it stops. But when we talk about culture and we mean what we say about culture, we also are shaping our culture, but how about through the way that we come into relationship with each other and how we repair and how we be in relationship. Okay. So today is day 20 of the 30 days of systems that makes teams work. 10 more days after this. And then some other things are cooking behind the scenes that I'm so super excited about. And so that'll come after towards the end of these lives. But today in our live, I am going to talk about why repair is the foundation of trust. I've kind of spoken to that already or hinted at that. Why people actually avoid repair, even the best leaders, the leaders who are just like at the top of their game, and why they even avoid repair. And then what repair looks like in real life. And then what it feels like when your team actually heals. There's a lot of teams out here that need to heal, that have been going through the ups and downs, the valleys, and all those type of things, and are not getting along. And they're not getting along because they don't know how to repair. And so I want to talk about that today. I want us to move in our teams from like sweeping things under the rug to actually not avoiding things, to actually build the type of ecosystems that we want, the type of relationships that we want, and to know how to repair so that you can be stronger, right? We all want to be stronger in our relationships, in our teams. We want to go into situations where we don't feel like we have the weight of the world on our shoulders. We actually want to move forward together in the most effective way, because the God's honest truth is that we are out here trying to make our money and trying to do good things out in the world and trying to make impact. And if we hold on to the conflict and don't repair, we are holding ourselves. I've been talking about this a lot with my husband lately, and I've been saying about how the amount of hate that I see people have because of the resentment and animosity they have because they never repaired a conflict that they had, it makes you look old, sickly, and you just don't look good anymore. So I really want to talk about how do we repair and make it so it's not as scary. Okay. So why does repair even matter? I've hinted at some of that, but let me walk through a little bit deeper. So every team, every relationship, every system, you're going to hit some moments when things are going to go sideways. That is just the God's honest truth. Everything is not going to be peachy keen all the time. Maybe because of, values that aren't being honored, or standards that somebody isn't aligned with you on, or boundaries someone crosses, or a situation in the moment where someone is maybe stressed, or they just, something just happened and then there's something that goes sideways. So we're always going to come up against those moments where things are going to feel like it went sideways. It is just the reality of working alongside other humans, um, working alongside other people with different personalities, people with different traumas, people with different ways of working, people with different goals, you name it. It's just the reality. And so I want to normalize that conflict happens, tension happens just by us being human. But knowing how to repair is super important in these moments, because that is how you're going to rebuild the relationship and get aligned even after the fallout, even after the tension, even after they said something you didn't like, even after, like, we have to, in this day and age, got to stop sweeping shit under the rug. Yeah, I said it. We need to stop sweeping stuff under the rug. We need to learn how to face one another and have good conversations and actually talk to one another and heal, right? Especially on in situations where you are with each other a lot, we have to learn to heal, and repair is that process. Because you don't want to just say that you're fine. Like, they're like, okay, how are you doing after that whole situation with that person? Oh, I'm fine. It's okay. I'm fine. And then you pretend like everything is okay while you are definitely avoiding. You are definitely being a little passive aggressive. Y'all know those people in your workplace? Comment in the chat if you know those type of people in the workplace that are avoiding, or they're being a little passive aggressive after a conflict. I know I'm not the only one who sees that. But You want to get to the point where you stop pretending like we're fine and start actually being fine. Start actually being okay. When you don't repair, these little instances, these little like flickers of fire are going to start becoming true barriers for you to go forward. Okay. And we want to go forward. We want to have healthy teams. We want to have healthy relationships. Tell me if that's not you. If you are the one human out here who don't want to have a good relationship, who just hate the world and don't care about nobody else, let me know and then we could talk. We could talk because baby, I'm wrong and I need to study you because maybe there's something else. Okay. When you repair, I guarantee that the walls are going to come down and you can restart to have and build a stronger relationship from that point. Okay. Especially if you want to get to a place of trust. That is going to be most important. Okay. So you know how. So I've just talked to you about why repair matters. That's good to know. Now you know the why. You know, Simon Sinek, his book, Start with Why. We always have to start with why. Why is this even important? So now you know, right? Because you want to have a healthy team, you want to have good relationships, you want to make progress, you want to make an impact, you want to make money, you don't want to be stressed out, you don't want to be burnt out. That's why repair matters. But why can people know all of that and still struggle with repair? I am not here on this live to tell you that repair is going to be easy. It's not, because repair can be the place of the greatest vulnerability. You're either going to have to admit a mistake or you're going to have to name the mistake. And both can be hard, right? Because you're either way, you're confronting a mistake or you're confronting a conflict, a tension, a boundary, you're confronting something. And that's hard, especially when you have been raised to be conflict avoidant. That is going to be hard. We have been shaped as a society to avoid repair because somewhere along the way, we learn that it makes us look weak if we apologize, if we say we're sorry, if we say we want to talk, if we want to admit something. If we admit where we're wrong, that means we lose some type of power. If we acknowledge the impact and we say, oh, yeah, that's like kissing the ring just to keep the peace. So instead of repairing, we start to get into defense mode. We start to justify, we start to avoid. And really, in the workplace, this gets even harder when we step into leadership. And I'm talking about the big L leader, the leader with the formal title. When we step into this type of leadership, I've seen leaders struggle with this more than when they were just an individual contributor. Because everything about leadership has taught us that we have to look strong, we have to be certain, we have to be in control at all times by any means necessary. We cannot look weak. So when things get messy, we're either going to go one of two ways. We're going to either people please so that everybody feels comfortable, like, what can I do for you? What can I do for you? Okay, I'll give you this. Okay, I'll let you work from over here. Okay, I'll let you work from home. Okay, you don't have to talk to them. Okay, I'm going to put you on another project so you don't have to run into them. We start to people please because we want everybody to be comfortable. We want everybody to be friends and all of these type of things, right? Or we tighten control. We get into that command and control type of environment so we don't lose our authority. But here's the thing about all of that. Skipping repair, sweeping things under the rug, like I like to say, and especially, in my personal life, it doesn't heal anything. It doesn't move things forward. It just buries the problem deeper. It just makes it a part of the system. And we know from, if you've been joining me in some of these lives, if you make this part of the system, you actually start to build a culture that has that in it. What I mean by that is like I've talked about how the culture is the byproduct of the systems that you have. And so if you have a system that has non conflict, skip and repair, people pleasing, that thing is going to form, it's going to take shape, and it's going to be a part of your system. And people will view it as a part of your culture. And then it gets so hard to like remove that after a while. Let me give you an example. So, repair is a lot like a leak in your house. So, say you have a leak in your house somewhere. One of my coaches, I saw that she had a leak in her house the other day. I hope she was able to get it fixed, and I hope she was able to get that done. But she's just a smart, badass lady, so I know she took care of it. But repair is a lot like a leak in your house. At first, it could be a small drip. It could be a small drip from the roof, from the sink, under the sink, or anything like that, right? It's annoying, but it's manageable. Like it's not really, messing up anything. It's good. Like we could patch it up a little bit and we'll go on, right? And sometimes we just say, I'll deal with it later. Like it's fine for now. I got it under control for now, right? So maybe you put a bucket under it and then you move on and you hope it stops. You hope that when the rain stops, you're good, right? We just have to walk through this while the rain is happening. But then over time, that slow drip starts to get into the walls. It starts to get into the rest of the structure of your house. It gets into the wood. Maybe it even causes some type of mold, right? And literally, what this is doing is it's making the structure of your house, the foundation, weak. Now, you have this very small problem that you should have took care of starting to make some major structural damage to your home. This is exactly what happens when you avoid repairing things in your system, in your team, in your relationship. That drip could be a missed conversation. It could be a broken promise. It could be something unspoken you're frustrated about. It could be a boundary that was crossed. It could be a deadline that was missed. That slow, steady drip does not go away. It seeps into the fabric of that foundation, into the culture, and eventually you don't trust that person anymore. You don't trust that leader. You don't trust that team. You don't trust that employee. It damages the trust. And then by the time you finally address it, now you're not just fixing that instant that happened, you have to rebuild an entirely new foundation because it may not be safe because there's a lot of things happening. Psychological safety. Now we got to work on that. Now we got to work on trust. Now we got to work on team agreements. Now we have to work on all these things because we didn't deal with what was happening when it happened. So, yes, repair is uncomfortable, but it's the only way that you're going to keep your team relationship system strong. It's the only way. Repair, remember, is about owning your impact. It's about seeing it, it's about naming it, and it's about doing the work that you need to do to rebuild what happened, what got out of pocket, what went sideways. The real reason why people really resist repair is because it requires you to be humble. It really does. Because you got to own your impact without falling into like this place of guilt. Because again, it doesn't help anything, it doesn't move things forward, it doesn't help either. And so, if you have to be humble, that could be hard. Some people don't like to be honest and they will resist repair because they don't really want to be out. They don't want to admit or say the hard things out loud. They wanted just to go under the surface, like, please, I don't really want to say it, right? I don't really want to tell her that she getting on my nerves. I don't really want to tell her that she keep gossiping and I don't want to hear it. I really don't want to have to tell my leader that they missed the deadline because I don't think that's my place. But now I'm pissed because now I got to stay up overnight and do this, and my kid is sick, and I still got to get up early in the morning and figure out where I'm gonna take them to be watched because now they can't go to school, and I have to be in the office tomorrow. It starts to build resentment, and it also requires our patience, y'all. A lot of teams skip repair because they're like, it takes too long. I don't want to deal with all that sticky relationship stuff. Like, let's just stick to the work and let's move forward. Not knowing that because you didn't try to repair and heal, it's taking even longer. It's taking so much longer. It's taking so much longer, right? So you might as well just do it because you're really gonna need some patience if you don't. But that's exactly why it matters. Repair is also when we talk about emotional intelligence, emotional maturity, this is what repair is. It's leadership, it's real leadership. It's when you're being the realest in your leader journey. Okay. So, what does repair look like in practice? Repair isn't about assigning blame. So, we don't want to blame anybody. We don't want to shame anybody. We don't want to guilt anybody, but it's about really rebuilding connection. And so the next time you feel like you have to repair something, I want you to see it as I am rebuilding this relationship. I am rebuilding this connection, and less about I have to admit a mistake. I have to, you know, admit that I'm wrong. I have to have this crucial conversation. When you think about how important that relationship is to you, and there is not one relationship, although you may say, like, oh, these relationships don't matter. There's not one relationship that you're working with that doesn't matter because all those relationships in your workplace are truly getting you to finish an assignment, finish a task, have the ROI, finish a project. So you need those relationships, right? So see it as I am rebuilding this connection for something. Excuse me. There's a book called Fighting for Our Friendships by Danielle Bayard Jackson. And she talks about conflict. And she says that conflict doesn't end relationships, that actually what ends relationships is the silence, it's the avoidance. That's what ends a relationship. And this applies to teams too, because when trust breaks down, people don't usually explode in the workplace. You're not just going to pop off at somebody on the workplace because that's not okay. You could get in trouble. You could be fired. You could be put on a pit. It could be really wrong, right? So people don't usually explode. But what they do in organizations that I've seen is that they start to withdraw, they stay quiet, they don't speak up for what they feel, or they just stop bringing ideas. They stop kind of like contributing to the team and they start protecting themselves. And usually, when this happens, your team isn't just unproductive. So now we're just not doing our work. We're just completely disconnected. Nobody knows what's happening, right? And so in her book, she says that repair starts when we stop defending our intentions and start owning our impact. So there is a phrase that a lot of people like to use. And they're like, I didn't intend that. That wasn't my intention. That's not what I meant, right? And we have to stop saying that because of course it wasn't your intention, right? I mean, on the surface level, I can agree. It wasn't your intention. But the impact made me feel shitty. It made me feel like I didn't belong. It made me feel like my opinions weren't worth it. There is an impact of all of our actions. And as much as we intend for something to be a certain way, sometimes it just doesn't land that way because the person on the other end, maybe they were having a bad day. Maybe they just got, a bad review. Maybe they were late and they're frantic or frazzled. Maybe they didn't have all the information. And you saying something or you crossing a boundary has a different impact than maybe you were just trying to check in. You were just trying to figure out what's going on, right? We have to start owning our impact versus saying that's not what I intend. We're hearing that a lot in the news cycle. I keep bringing up our government because if you are curious about what leadership looks and doesn't look like what's good leadership, what's bad leadership, or what are stories or messages about leadership, you have so much to look at right now in our current state, in our environment. And I'm just watching and I'm taking notes and I'm just like, I am literally have an eye for leadership everywhere, no matter what it is, right? And so I keep bringing this in because there's a lot of things in our news cycle like, oh, they didn't intend that. Oh, that was just a joke. Oh, that they were just being funny. Oh, but maybe they didn't intend that, but the impact of that is now I am scared. Now I have fear. Now I can't trust you. And once you lose trust, that's it. And Patrick Lencioni's motto of the five dysfunctions of a team, trust is the foundation of everything. If I don't have trust, then all the other things break down. I'm not going to even get to like the most optimal team. And so knowing and understanding our impact is so important. That is really the work. That's the work we have to do, is reframing our mind to say, my impact is what I need to focus on, and building connection and having relationships and being in relationship with others is super important. This is why I do design alliances before teams, which are agreements or norms with teams, with pairs, with partnerships. I do this because I want to make sure that I understand the intention, right? There's another thing that they say in design alliance is like assume positive intent. Every time I hear that on the team, it takes everything in me to not scream because I can't assume positive intent with you until I understand what your intentions are. And usually, I'm not going to know your intentions until after a conflict or a tension it happens, and then I'm able to share your impact, and you own your impact, and then I'm like, oh, got you. So the next time that maybe happens, because maybe you had a bad day or something happened, I'm going to assume positive intent at that point. This is the reason why we create agreements or norms, because now I can see what you have agreed to. By I'm doing this because usually it's on a sticky flip chart on the sticky notes, or I write it, on a sticky note or flip chart. And so I'm doing this, but I can assume positive intent when I see what you have agreed to. And I'm like, okay, this team has agreed to being open and to curiosity. They have agreed to being direct. And so I know your intention is to step into the directness, step into the curiosity. So when you're asking questions, I'm not going to see that as interrogation. I'm going to see that as curiosity. Now I can have positive intent. But until then, owning the impact is crucial. It's crucial. That's a little bit off my topic than what I really wanted to say, but I had to share that, okay? Because y'all with this assume positive intent, we're going to stop doing that. We're going to stop saying that until after we done kind of been together and I could say, I know that what your intentions were, okay? So here's what repair looks like. Here's what it looks like. The first thing is to acknowledge what happened. Like I said, we always have to acknowledge what happened. If we can't acknowledge it, we can't fix it. So say it out loud. You might say things like, this created confusion, or this hurt people, or this broke trust. When you name it, it takes relief. You're relieved of holding on to it. And it also gives that other person an opportunity to correct, to repair, right? This is the first signal that you are starting to rebuild safety, that you are starting to rebuild the relationship. Okay. So acknowledge what happened. The second thing, I just went on a rant about this, own your impact. Stop explaining yourself and start listening. Intent, when I say that wasn't my intent, that's about you. When I say I recognize and I want to acknowledge my impact, that's when you make it about them. So if you can see and you can validate their experience, that's when trust can start rebuilding. Impact over intention all day, every day. The third thing is build repair not just by what you say, but by what you do. Words will open the door, it will open the opportunity to have a conversation, but action, that builds the bridge. That connects you back together. That makes things start to move forward. That makes change happen. That allows you to follow through. It allows you to do better. If nothing changes, you saying I'm repairing, that's just PR. Those are good talking points. You're just, you just, you're just saying it. You're the newscaster on the screen and you're just saying things, right? So make sure that when you're repairing, there's some action. I can say I own my impact. I can apologize all day. But if I consistently do it over and over again, that's good PR. You making me believe something that you're really not going to do. That's also a sign that it's seeped into your system. It has become part of your culture, which leads me to number 4, make repair a part of your system. Don't wait for things to blow up. Blow up in a corporation sense doesn't look loud. It doesn't look like a huge argument typically. I won't say that that won't happen, but it typically doesn't. What it looks like is withdrawal, avoidance, stop sharing ideas, only doing what is being told for you to do, so not taking risk. That's what it looks like when there's a blow up, right? So you just have to be able to see these little nuances in the system, right? So to make this a part of your system and not wait for the blow up, make reflection and repair a part of how you work. So, those retrospectives that I talked about constantly over and over again, and really looking back after every event, every project conclusion, or while the project is happening at different points, you want to build time for reflection so you can say, hey, I was waiting on this piece from you and it kind of slowed down, which made me not be able to pass along to the next person. And I just want to name that. And that person could say, oh my God, that wasn't my intention. They're probably going to say that. I really, that wasn't my intention, but I want to honor and I want to own my impact on that. That the impact on you was that you couldn't do what you needed to do on time. And so, I just want to let you know that the reason why I was late is because my mom has been sick for the past couple of weeks and I've been taking care of her. And I should have told you sooner. And, I can let you know that for the next time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I let you know because I don't want that to happen to you, right? I want to honor what you said. You told me that it slowed you down and I honor that. That is repair. Okay? So just make the repair, the reflections and the repair part of how you work. It could be in retrospectives. You could do a debrief. You could do feedback sessions. You could do a team reset, which looks like, after a project is over, you kind of reset and come together and talk about how did our agreements work? How did it work to have these acknowledgement of like how we were going to work and how did the communication go and things like that. Okay. When you normalize that repair is something we're always going to do, people stop being afraid of it because they're like, okay, I already know that this is going to happen. So I'm going to be prepared to say what I need to say. I'm going to be prepared with what I'm seeing along the way. This is especially helpful for introverts because now you can plan. You have it in your head about what you need to do. And so that is good, right? That is how we get more clear about who we are and who we want to be in relationship with each other. Okay. Now you're going to know when repair is real because you're going to start to see things change. There's going to be some shifts in the system. You're going to see people that start showing up again. They're going to start giving their ideas. You're going to start seeing people take ownership again, because that's how trust feels. It feels like a weight is off your shoulders. When people are bringing their best selves to work, when they're authentic and they're truly contributing, you know that they feel safe. You know that it's a time where people really feel like they're a part of something. They're just not a robot on the side that has to put things to work, okay? Like I said, mistakes aren't the things that destroy relationships, okay? What destroys relationships is not having the repair, sweeping things under the rug. If you want to build safety, if you want to have an environment where people aren't scared, but they're confident, if you want to have an environment where people take risks and are collaborative, repair has to be a part of the system. It has to be a part of the process. Y'all remember when I talked about this leak in your house, right? Repair is like finally fixing the leak. I'm not just patching it up. I'm actually getting somebody to actually close it for good, to cement it up or whatever. However you do it. I don't know. I've never had a leak in my house. So I don't know. But I've never had a leak from the outside. Yes, underneath the pipes and things like that. I remember having a leak and I had to call my dad on the phone, like, can you walk me through how to fix this? But yeah, so that's how you do it, right? You want to make sure that you completely fix it. Okay. And it won't just be a patch up, right? You're actually repair it where the system is actually like it won't happen again. And that's what repair feels like inside of a team. People start to feel comfortable. There isn't the Monday morning blues, right? We come and we're real and we don't have to guess. We don't have to figure out if the culture is okay or people are okay. You'll see the aliveness across the system. All right. So, as normal, I want to leave you with a reflection, something that you can think about this week. These are the questions I have for you. Where in your system is trust still broken? What's being ignored or glossed over or swept under the rug that needs to be repaired? And then what's one action you can take today to own your impact and rebuild the connection that you want? This could be a conversation that you need to have. This could be you need to acknowledge something, or this could also be like you need to change a process, change of, the way things are going, right? So start there. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to show up as accountable and as owning your impact as possible, right? And you don't want to prove like I'm the best or I'm the right person. You have to prove that it's valuable to you, that relationship is valuable, and be willing to practice it, right? I also, for any of you who are listening, if you want to have some conversation with somebody and you're not sure how to do it, book a call with me, right? We could get on a call, and a console call. I'll tell you what things you need to do. I'll even tell you like what are some tips that how I would approach things, because it's important that our relationships get built in the way that we want them to. Okay. Repair is leadership. So I always talk about leadership. I'm looking at leadership, my eye for leadership. When you repair, that is a leadership skill. So if you're looking, what kind of skills do I need? Repair is one of them. And hell no, it's not a soft skill. This is a very hard skill because it's vulnerable, because it's about humility, because it's about owning up to something that maybe you don't want to own up to. So this is leadership. Everybody can do great things when everything is smooth, but leaders know how to show up when things start to fall apart. They know how to show up when trust gets broken. They know how to show up when there's a lot of tense moments or when people are silent and not, leaning in. This is going to be the moment that's going to define your leadership. When you can navigate conflict through repair, and it's not how fast you fix it, but how deeply you are willing to go to repair it. How deeply are you willing to go to heal it? Stop right now. I've worked with teams, and I know teams right to this day who have a lot of conflict and a lot of healing that they have to do, but they won't stop to do it. And they're trying to still push their agendas, still push their mission, still push their goals, still push their strategy. And it ain't been working because they haven't taken the time to really heal. So the next time conflict shows up, don't rush. Don't rush to just move past it. Don't sweep it under the rug. I want you to pause. I want you to name it and do the work to repair it. And I am here as your coach who is willing to help you do that. Okay. So thank you for today. Thank you for showing up to this live. I have 10 more days left of this live. And so I will meet you back here tomorrow, same time. We're going to talk about uh, energy, about how to incorporate rest, breaks, how to renew, how to recover. So it's getting to that point at the end of the year where things are going to be coming at you. I already know this. It doesn't matter what industry you're in, you're trying to get things done by the end of the year. Okay. And so I want to talk tomorrow about how to incorporate rest and recovery and how to renew and still have some time for yourself during this time because it can get real stressful. Right. But we don't want a system of robots where you just go, go, go. Where none of us are Energizer bunnies. I want to build a system where we're actually moving forward and we're doing some things that can really help us sustain the energy until the end of the year, right? And then we'll pick back up in 2026, right? So again, thank you for coming to my live. Thank you to all of you who shout me out for my birthday. Please go listen to my podcast, like, subscribe, download, share. The same with this live and the lives that I've already did for the past 20 days. Talk to you soon. Have a good Sunday. Bye.